Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer. I know it's been a while since I've been on. It's been roughly about a month, or a little bit over a month, really. I think the last time I was on, it was with our host, Alfredo Martinez, back on the 15th of December. And I think the last video I did was back on the 14th of December of last year. So today I wanted to come on here because I was reminded about some stuff that I think is important for us as practitioners, things that help us grow to adapt to everyday life, not just within our practices as either pagans, Wiccans, black magicians, Satanists, Luciferians, you know, Santeria practitioners, Pedo Mayumbi, the whole, whatever path you're on. I think this actually helps in these areas. So I've been doing a lot of meditation and a lot of reflection over the month of December. And since the 1st of January, I began a series of rites that is going to be taking me over 2 years to complete. And all of this surrounds a personal lifestyle that is not only benefiting me personally, but it is also helping me to create a path working of dedicated and committed growth. Something that haven't done in a while because of the fact that I've been busy teaching and applying the studies and my knowledge to help others. So now that I'm undergoing this journey, it is something that is beneficial to me personally because I'm gaining new insights, new um, understandings, and delving further into the practices as an archbishop of the dark arts. So here it is. One of the biggest things that we as practitioners get into is alchemical practice. What is alchemy? Okay. We've all heard of the philosopher's stone. Okay. There are, well, let's just say it has many identifying markers of what it is as there are practitioners. For me personally, the philosopher's stone is who I am. Okay, it is what I am. I am the practitioner. I am the god in the making, so to speak, but not in a egotistical or prideful manner. It is more the fact that we as practitioners are working towards godhood. Okay. Now, alchemy, how does this apply to what we do in this fashion? If you take alchemy and you look at your life, number one, it is your responsibility. You are accountable for your own actions, your own words, your own studies, your own evolution. Okay. You are accountable for either succeeding or failing at your own leisure. Okay. So, one of the things that we can do is if we look at alchemy, and this is a key thing here, alchemy. How do you change? Look at where you are today. What are your goals for the future? Where do you see your practice being, say for an example, taking you? Where what do you want to be? Why did you get into your practice. Working with the spirits that I've been working with over the last 6 years, I have personally gone through a lot of mind blowing experiences. When I first got into the path of necromancy, I thought it was cool. I delved into the research, I delved into every form of literature. I went into the area of medical applications, and today I'm a psych major. I am a student of psychology, okay, going for my PhD. Well, actually, my bachelor's degree first, because I have to have a bachelor's degree to get into the field that I want to get into. As a necromancer, the biggest thing that I've wanted to get into since I stepped foot on this was thanatology. Thanatology will open up a lot of doors for me for work, employment, but also to further the field of study within necromancy. Okay. So, how do you get into this field? First of all, you have to understand why you got into the field and the practice that you got into. And to do that, I started, like I said, studying, just researching the spirits. I started researching the field and the practices from Hermetics to European to African Caribbean traditions, from the medical perspectives of herbalism and to make elixirs and phylacteries and a whole bunch of other things that went along with this field. And it was interesting because of the fact that by the time I realized that some things have gone on, and I've talked about this in the past about how my boss had a heart attack, and I went to the spirits and I said, "Hey, can you help me open these doors, so I can gain this experience?" You know, Connor Maynard, help, welcome. So can you help me with this? Get me into this field, to move up in the company, so to speak. Well, just because you want to move up in that company doesn't mean it's going to happen. You have no control over it when you petition the spirits, because what you are trying to do is not necessarily what's benefiting you. Okay. So basically, after I did this, I ended up going into the medical field working as a dietary aide. Okay. Now it's kind of ironic, the growth and the personas I've taken on over the years, going from a team member at Tractor Supply, okay, working in warehousing, custodial, being a firefighter, being a whole bunch of different jobs over the years, just existing, okay, because there was really nothing in the world that interested me personally, okay. So today I'm kind of wondering, why did I not go back to college long before now? You know, why didn't I get into the ministry years ago? Why did I just remain a Satanist for so long, where I lost interest in so many things? People started seeing me as an elder, but me myself, I didn't see myself as an elder. But what makes up an elder? Best way to describe that is through the Canaan law. When you're trying to become a bishop, what makes up a bishop? Somebody who has no is void of are devoid of ego and pride. Somebody who is a good listener. Somebody who's dedicated to a path or a particular religious perspective, not just philosophy. I look back at my youth as a satanic warlock. I was good at seduction. I was good at holding the crowd's attention. One might say that was popularity. One might say that that was a matter of ego. To be truthful, it was. The very young don't always do what's in their nature or what's in their best to do. They always do what's in their nature. I was haughty. I was a warrior, a fighter. I was good at curses, hexes, and jinxes. It took me many years of practice to get to where I was, where I ended up being recommended to the ministry. And ironically, that was actually by an apostolic evangelist that actually got me into the ministry. And I started my path from there as a minister, an ordained deacon in 2011. In 2013, became an ordained priest, and as of August 4th of last year, an archbishop. But here it is, alchemy, the ability to change, the ability to grow, to mature. Every time you get into a path, every time you get into a philosophy, every time you set foot in your temple in front of that altar, you are performing an act of alchemical change. When you are doing a ritual for a monetary gain, you are creating alchemy. You're destroying something to create something new. You're putting forth your intention. You're putting forth your will. When you are doing a curse, for an example, this is what has come to be known today as sympathetic magic. You're creating a link between an effigy and a victim. Okay. A lot of times that's done with a voodoo doll, or you can use a gris or a mojo bag. Something with a link that has, like, say, fingernail clippings or a photo. Okay. Maybe something that has their saliva or DNA on it. You know, there's a lot of different things that could be used to link a spell to a target or to an individual. But I look back today and I remember I asked the spirits, no matter what the cost is, I'm willing to pay in blood. I really am. I'm willing to play this game. I'm willing to do what is necessary to succeed. But if you look at it, I was petitioning these spirits for their help instead of doing the work myself. But over the last decade, I've been gradually getting away from that. I've been gradually getting more and more into the arts and the practices and applying these things to my life. The alchemical change, seeking out that gnosis. But through the spirits that I work with now, let's just say I've seen and had to come to terms with a lot of things. And I mean a lot. Looking back at my past, it was fear, it was anger and hatred, vengeance in its purest form. It was the mysticism of the very image, the persona of the warlock that grasped my attention in my youth. But the spiritual encounters that I've had, starting at age 5, when Lucifer came to me, 12 years ago, when Satan came to me, two different instances. One, the backyard when I was a child, and one when I was homeless down in Tucson for 14 days. When I yelled out, cursing God, any other being, why is this occurring to me? Why is my life falling apart? It was a stage that was needed. You see, The alchemy process here is like the tower card in cartomancy. You have to destroy to create. Even alchemy teaches you this. You have to take something and break it down to its most basic components before you can create it into something new. Kind of like taking silver or and making it into gold, okay? Or taking salt, charcoal, and sulfur and making gunpowder. You see the alchemical process there. You can make that compound just with those three elements. Amazing. You have to destroy to create, and it's always been easier to destroy. It's always been easier to hate. It's been easier to do what comes in your nature. People, society wants you to look at yourself and say, hey, you're evil because you follow a path of Satanism, or you follow the number one black art known as necromancy. People judge you by the way you look or by the way you talk, the way you dress. So when it comes to your practice, you have to decide for yourself, what is it that you desire? What are you about? Okay? What are you about? And where do you see yourself in the future? Okay? One of the questions that was brought to my attention last year was, if you could talk to yourself, say 5 to 15 years down the road, to see where you are, where do you see yourself? What would you say? What kind of steps would you take to get to that point? And if you think about alchemy, you really have to take into consideration these steps. You have to experiment with the tools such as remote viewing, projection, and astral projection, because in our case, meditation is the biggest thing that we do. Daily commitment to a philosophy, daily commitment to a lifestyle that you live, daily commitment to practicing the arts. This is how you gain a practice, not just becoming that which you're meant to be. Alchemy, accountability within your practice. It starts with making up your mind, saying, this is who I am. To hell what other people think. It's not about them. It's about me. It's about me. Then you can look at your path and say, all right, I'm a necromancer. I connect to this path. I love this path. It is what I want to practice for the rest of my life. It gives me that freedom. I'm not subjugated into any given segregation, limitation, or subdivision. There's no walls. That border is wide open. That border is wide open, meaning I can go into any philosophy, any practice, and work with spirits. Because if you look at the very definition of what a necromancer is, a necromancer is an evocator, somebody who conjures and evokes spirits, works with various different kinds of spirits. You're not limited by a religion or any particular philosophy. Your study Your practice, when aligned, will lead you into many areas. Mine led me into Bushido, which in return led me into Shintoism. I started reading Bushido by Yamamoto. I'm not even going to pronounce the first name. I'd butcher it in a heartbeat. Shintoism, okay? By Vincent Miller. Love that book. There was a lot of knowledge there. But one of the biggest ones that I've read is the Book of Five Rings. The Book of Five Rings isn't just a path of philosophy within Bushido, such as the code of a warrior. Now, a warlock is a warrior. It's somebody who is solitary, just like a necromancer. Okay, just like a Bokor or a Maramberos, a Darak, shaman, medicine man. The thing I liked about that book is it broke things down between the mind, body, and soul. The mind, body, and spirit. And when you're dealing with hermetics, you're dealing with practices of void meditation. You're dealing with magics, and you're dealing with the fact that you're trying to go from the macrocosm to becoming, or microcosm rather, into being a macrocosm, meaning going from little god to big god. Okay, that is the goal of evolution. Self mastery is key. For an example, I learned the first few days of this month that I had a lot of fear in the past. And I had to overcome that fear to further my practice. Meaning, what was it that prevented me from getting into the ministry earlier? What was it that prevented me from delving into college? What was it that prevented me from separating from the world and pursuing what I loved? Because everything I did for the last 20 years, I did to make the world happy, to play that proverbial bad guy card. But somewhere along the line, it stopped becoming about the world. It stopped becoming about other people. And I began putting together a lifestyle, daily fasting, daily devotionals, daily practices, daily meditations. And before long, I came to terms with the fact that I've done a lot of stuff in my life: seduction, dominance, bewitchments, things that were considered to be demonic in nature, supernatural in some cases. But I started getting reacquainted with this: the fear, the chill, the hand of death. You see, you have to come to terms with all the negativity in your life and put it to death. Fears, doubts, hindrances, all of this stuff you have to deal with to further your path. One of the things that I always said to the spirits, and when I'm in that temple, is if it's from me and mine, then I want it. But if it is not from me and mine, then I don't want it. So I was surprised last year that my mother had a heart attack and a triple bypass. That my life got flipped upside down. My son's mother and I separated. The fear of not being able to see my son because she is a Baptist. She listens to her zealot mother. who never wanted me in her daughter's life, and she's tried everything to get me out of her life and my son's. So I had to come to terms with that fear, and sometimes that fear can be chilling, can be brutal, especially when you come to terms with everything that's happened, everything that's been done in your life, the journey that your life has taken. And I'm talking like dough. You know, when you're making bread, you're kneading that bread, you're flipping in, you're folding in, you're kneading it, all together to make something new. It's the same thing with clay. You have to work the clay to get it to be sculpted properly. Okay. Magic and sorcery, spirituality, it's the same way. You have to work through it, and it's alchemical practices. Working with seals, working with magic, you have to learn things like protection, wardings, adjurations, and reversals. You got to learn defensive magics as well as offensive magics. You have to learn about the tools of the trade. And when you do and you start growing and you find that path that works for you, it's worth delving in on, well, hell, let's just call it the way it is. And my brother, John Saunders, who is no longer with us, you know, he always referred to it as 666%. Well, guess what? It is truth there. You have to delve in 666%. There is no intermediate, there is no dabbling, there is no nothing. You either do or you don't. And the thing is that since I left Winterberry Heights, I went back, I took that month off, I reflected, I started realizing, this is what I want to do with my life. I got into college. I started my new job back at Dunkin' Donuts. I never thought I'd be back there again, but I'm working for a new owner and a new store, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm the baker. You know, my elders, are loving my work, and I'm applying what I'm learning and the tools of the trade, from manipulation to seduction to even dominating my trade. Okay, and it's within 2 days, my manager was telling me that if I keep it up, I'm gonna be team lead before I know it. Within a week and a half, I was employee of the month, and that was right after I started, okay? Since then, I can't tell you how many times they've looked at me and said, "I'm the best baker they have." My coworkers have come in, it's like, "You got everything done already?" "Yeah, now you know why I work myself out of jobs." You see, it's called adaptability. It's that aptitude of adapting to the trait and applying it. And to do that, you have to experiment. You have to look at your coworkers. You have to look at your job. You have to look at what you are as a practitioner in the world of the mundane. You got to remember that secrecy is a good thing, but sometimes you can use your trait to your advantage. And in that case, like I said, seducing your coworkers, showing them something they've never seen before. Bewitchment is what the term is. The seducing part is playing the gentleman card, if you will, sometimes being the protector, being the ever helping hand, being that role model, going above and beyond to show, hey, I'm better than these lazy folks. Let's see them rise to the occasion. They had the bar, now I hold the bar. Let's see them rise like the phoenix. Okay? Bewitchment, seduction, showing them that you have the light in you. or in my case, the darkness. Okay? Now, here's the thing. Once you've done that and you've been experimenting, then you can sit there and apply other faucets. Think of it as a diamond. There are so many routes that you can take, so many different avenues to apply your trait in the world. Most people today, when they get into this, they want to sell product. It's all about this. But what happens when you come across somebody that doesn't give two shits about money, doesn't care about the latest fad, what's popular in the world? You see, the governor aspect, as David Goggins once said. You see, David Goggins was a former Navy SEAL, and he's had to overcome so much in his life where he literally has made up his mind. I'm going to do the best I can every day. Fuck people. To hell with people. Okay? This is also a sorcerer's mind. When you separate from society, you become an outcast. You become weird, right? You become the weirdo, having four, you could be the cat woman or the cat man in my case, having four cats, living alone. Shit happens, right? But you can be asked to do a video on somebody, say, on John Ramirez, and you do an honest outlook just from all the videos and stuff that you've watched and taken notes on. You can catch them in a bunch of lies and tell the truth in a live video. Okay? People are going to name you an archdevil, a demon, evil, just by doing that because you've gone against the system. You've gone against the tide. The school of fish are going one way, you're going the opposite. Welcome to being a practitioner of the arts. It's not about being the bad guy. It's about self mastery. It is about self evolution. And the best way I can describe this to you is that you have to delve into the books. You have to delve into, personally, I recommend the older books to you, the ones from like the 60s, not this new age bullcrap. Okay. You want to get into the old school way of doing things. And you have to create that persona. You have to create that lifestyle. And then you have to practice it. If you look at the old Magi, did you ever wonder why they locked themselves away for years of a time at a time to master the arcane? Or how about the necromancers and the shamans who lived apart from society, okay, in European traditions? How about the Hexa, the Strega, the Agi or the Agi? Okay, think about that for just a moment. I want you to honestly take a good look at this because being solitary is what we're about. This is how we master ourselves. This is how what we do becomes untainted. Okay, it's not being corrupted or persuaded to be something that it's not. Your job as a witch or a warlock is about keeping that knowledge pure, not corrupting it. And sometimes hindrances and stuff happens that occupy your mind for a short time. Within the last 2 months, I went from a very dark place to a very good place. I wasn't looking to be saved. I wasn't looking for redemption. No. I had to work through emotions. I had to work through this darkness that was inside me. And before long, I knew that during Yule was a time of death. It was putting to death all the negativity. It was about putting to death all the things that did not matter. And then begin your journey, January 1st. And that's what I did. So I ended up performing a series of rites, and then all of a sudden I was approached, and I ended up purchasing a relic that is great for necromantic practices. Well, I got that relic last Saturday. I followed all the instructions and I delved into it. And to say that that was not a very mind blowing rite, I'm telling you, that was mind blowing. It was beyond words. I felt the connection to it. I felt the power behind it when I was saying the words, when I was doing the dedication and charging it up and activating it, to seeing how it went from dark to gray to white as I'm holding this relic in the palm of my hand in front of me, chanting the words. I felt that connection. Then I spent the next 4 days not entering my temple because it had to stay in darkness for at least 3 days. I gave it a little extra time. But then I went in, I set it on my altar, and I cleaned up my temple. I've got it covered. I've got all my relics, my talismans, and all my totems covered in black silk to protect them from any form of light. Swept up the floor. Ended up meditating that night. And this was just yesterday. Today I was updating my journals again for the third time this month because I'm updating them once a week because I'm giving myself a week worth of rituals on certain things to become acquainted with them, seeing the results from them. This week alone, I lost quite a bit of hours for work wise because you had too many hands in the cookie jar from upper management. But it was all right because I actually made quite a bit of them up. So and I still got one more day of work. But here it is. After doing the right, doing a right, I went to my manager and I said, "Hey, why was this when my everything had already been adjusted and works accordingly? Why did you cut it in half?" "Oh, well, we didn't know. We were trying to protect your hours." Well, guess what? Those hours were made up. And like I said, I have a 3-hour um, work day tomorrow because that's the ending of my week. And all I got to do is just bake and then take off. I don't have to stick around to deal with customers. I don't have to stick around and do cashiering or anything else. It's a weekend. I can just leave and go spend time with my son. And the funny thing is, while my life is getting better, talk about a downfall from my ex. She has COVID for the second time. Her car has quit on her 3 times in the last 3 weeks. Okay? Everything on her end was going awesome when she was with me, and now that she's not, it's going downward spiral. Okay? But like they say, there's only things come at you in threes, right? But you have to look at it, say, okay, yeah, I had a bad experience, but instead of dwelling on it, how can you fix it? What can you do to improve and go beyond? For an example, I look at all my strengths and I look at my weaknesses. Okay. How can I make my weaknesses into strengths? How can I use alchemy to better myself? It is my responsibility to grow, to mature in this tradition. No one else is going to do it for me, just like nobody's going to do the work for you. It is you who is accountable for your own failures, your own weaknesses. So, how can you ask yourself, okay, when you go before your altar and you go into a void meditation, okay, one of the things that I recommend is ask yourself, okay, these are my, take an honest look at yourself, look at your life, pros and cons, if you want to call it that. How can I turn my weaknesses into positive things? How can I make it work for me? How can I correct those weaknesses? Okay. Now, I allowed myself to get overworked when I worked for Winterberry, when I worked for Duncan before, when I worked for Tractor Supply before that. I allowed myself to fall out of balance. That was my weakness. I allowed my fear, my arrogance, my haughtiness, this anger that I had to rule my life for a long time. First of all is acknowledgement. Second of all is how can I deal with them? I got to face them so that they don't rule my life anymore. Then you can sit there and go, okay, my past has made me who I am today. This is where I want to be. I got to set these goals. I got to set these steps. How can I get to those goals? If I want to be the most powerful warlock in the world, how do I become that powerful warlock? That means you have to study. You have to work your ass off. You have to experiment and you have to put a personal lifestyle together. Only you can put the work in. And sometimes it's not about putting the work in, it's about looking at yourself. You got to master yourself before you master the world. And that's the one thing that this past few weeks have really, really benefited me on is because I've taken that time to tear apart my own mind. And I continuously tear apart my mind to look at myself in the proverbial mirror. How can I get better? What can I do to get better? To deal with all this weakness? How do I shed that serpent skin, if you will, to become better, bigger, more powerful? How do I benefit from this? The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. No, I probably just butchered his name, but and I do apologize. He was one of the greatest Japanese samurai. 60 some odd victories. A lot of people thought it was a joke. A lot of people thought it was a myth, just somebody spreading false reputation around. But then they saw him fight. They saw him with a katana. They saw him with a double sword. Saw how easily he had mastered his craft to become one of the most dominant practitioners of Bushido, to go down in history. You look back in our fields, Eliphas Levi, Dr. Faustus, Agrippa, Crowley, Anton LaVey, Edward Arthur White, Francis Barrett, Marcus Aurelius, just to name a few practitioners. Marcus Aurelius wasn't a black magician, of course, but he's right up there with one of the greatest philosophers, just like Friedrich Nietzsche, who mastered the mind, mastered the game, mastered the field that they were in. Anton Zanderleve may have been the first founder of the Church of Satan, but nobody, not even Bob Larson, dared to disrespect him. Did you ever ask yourself why? It is because he knew his craft. It is because he had mastered himself. He put off that aura that would just make you shit yourself because he had put the time and the work in. He had reflected upon everything. He knew what he wanted and how to get it. He was twisted in a sense of playing mind games, art of seduction, bewitchment, you know, a lot of different things like having a lion in the backyard and knowing that everybody knew it except for a particular guest. And then sitting there and reveling in the fear and the panic and the actions of that individual, and he finds out there's a freaking lion in the backyard. Okay? So you see, mastering the arts and mastering who you are and what you're about, it's all one and the same. Master yourself to master the world, right? So ask yourself this: what am I accountable for? How do I how do I overcome my weaknesses? And how do I apply it to my life? Through alchemy. Because alchemy, if you look at just about any application throughout your entire life, you are changing. You are taking something that exists and you are changing it into something better. Alchemy is a major practice. And if you think about the Philosopher's Stone, it is alchemy. It is alchemy because only through alchemy can you find out who you are and what you're about. Only through alchemy can you practice the arts of black magic, sorcery, spiritual conjuration, evocation, invocation, reanimation. Why do you think anthropology, archaeology, history, folklore, and mythology are some of the biggest things out there for you to learn from? There's an old expression that says, a man who does not learn from history is doomed to repeat it. And from a teacher's perspective, there's an old proverb where it states you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. Okay? That's why we as teachers give you the sources, but we're not going to do the work for you. Only you can decide to either do the work or not. Since I started applying these rituals and stuff back on the first, after putting to death the former years, things that I no longer needed nor wanted in my life, guess what? My life started improving. My ex is envious of me and my car. My car works. And yes, I do on occasionally, rub it in. But it is what it is. But you see the point. And before I go, Connor Maynard actually put some stuff through here. Let's see. I remember a story that you mentioned where you cursed a company. Actually, there was two companies I cursed. One of which was Tractor Supply, and the second one was actually a church and a minister of that church. Both of them end up in a very bad state. So, let's see. This question is: any successful experience with mind control and evoking spirits to influence people? The answer is yes. Through bewitchment, through seduction, you can learn to master your voice. Okay? Before you speak, think about the words that you say, how they're going to afflict the other people around you. Okay? How can you get them to, or at least motivate them to move? Okay? Think of it like this. You go to a you go to work. I'll give you two examples. First, you go to a bar. You're looking to just for like a one night of passion, so to speak. You know, lust, one night stand. Or maybe you're there to gain popularity or attention. There are two aspects of this that I've deployed successfully in the past. One was bewitchment of the masses. Okay. And I did this in front of it for the benefit of a former friend. Actually, he was the one that introduced me to my ex, the mother of my son. We were at a place called, um, it was just a bar slash restaurant. Not even worth mentioning, really, but I'm not even going to mention it, the name of it, because let's just say the owner is a, well, douche. So, don't know who it is, don't care. So, so here it is. We were up on the second floor, which is the lounge. Okay. And we're sitting there in the chair, and these women came in, and they realized we were talking witchcraft and occult sciences. And he and I have discussed numerous times about the art of seduction, the art of dominance over other people, how to gain their attention and to keep it. But he didn't realize how effective it could be when it was actually employed. So here we are, we're sitting there talking, and these people come in, and they started asking questions. So I started answering them. And I wasn't just answering them, I was actually showing them certain things, certain tricks. And a lot of this is done through psychology. Okay. For an example, if you take a coin and you put it in, you put it in your hands and you whisper into your hands, so to speak, like, you know, say you can do whatever, like say thicken, 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 or become heavier. Okay, whatever. Um, and you look at the person and you say, "This is light, right? Yeah. How about now? Is it heavier or lighter?" I guarantee it. It's the art of suggestion. Okay, so therefore it's psychology. So when you say, "Hey, this is heavier, right?" He goes, "Yeah." Wow, how'd you do that? You see, it's a form of magic, but it's also a form of mind control because you're manipulating that individual. It's thought projection. And what it is that when you implement that thought, you can make the person believe it. Okay. And I'm reminded of a video of a voodoo practitioner that was talking to a journalist. And he put the woman's wedding ring into the voodoo doll, and she couldn't move. She couldn't speak because he had implemented that thought projection into her mind, and it became reality to her. Okay. So mind control is done through thought projection. It is through implementing that suggestion of a particular thought. So if you look at somebody and say, hey, that person's evil, okay, let's say, for an example, you look at, let's say Donald Trump, okay? We all know he ran for president. We all know he was being, the government was trying to impeach him and all that stuff, and now he's running for like House of Speaker or something. So, but You notice how they tried using everything, saying that he was a traitor to the to the country, trying to diminish his reputation because he has countries worldwide. He has corporations worldwide. His company is worldwide. So, and because Russia was one of our allies, America's allies, and he was the president of the United States, it was implemented that he was a spy, that he was giving classified documents to the Russians. You see, number one, that's a setting of fear and paranoia, that what if state, right? So, right there, you just implemented a thought suggestion. Okay. You implemented that thought projection, that form of thought, that train of thought. So, that's going to take root and it's going to seep in. That's going to seep in. So, by doing the same thing that this Voodoo did, this voodooist did, and what I did to these women, okay, in front of my friend in this lounge at this restaurant slash bar, was implementing that thought, that suggestion. And all it was the bewitchment, putting on that persona, creating something that will bring that illusion of mystery. People love a good mystery. They love a good set of drama. So if you implement that and you apply it to your life and you start applying it to your practices, you can gain momentum. Okay. So what is mind control but thought suggestion? It's implementing that thought form. Okay. Evoking spirits to influence people is another thing. Okay. You have to open a door and a gateway so that they can come in and work through a specific task. Okay. In this case, let's say, for an example, let's go with Dunkin' Donuts. I went to the spirits that I work with and I said, hey, I want to move up in this company. I want to move up in the company. I'm done being a team member. I want to be a manager. I want to be a team lead, and I'm willing to work my ass off for it. But can you open the doors for me? Okay. One of the things that you want to look at is monetary gain. Okay. What spirits can you implement for that? And how do you protect that at the same time? So if we're going with money, okay, I would recommend Viney and Boom. Okay, one's for protection and one's for that financial prosperity. Kind of like working with Sabnook. Okay, now let's say, for example, you want to move up in the company, you want a greater title, then you can work with Belial, Belial, the giver of titles of importance like senatorships and ambassadorships. Okay, becoming a minister, for an example, is a great way to do that and to work with him on that. So by working with these spirits, you're putting that suggestion for saying, hey, this is my goal, this is my aim. Can you open those doors? Now, once you've opened those doors, you don't have a say in how they handle things. Okay. I figured by now I would have been at least the assistant store manager of that Dunkin' Donuts. Did not work out that way. It really did not. Okay. But instead, I got an experience of a lifetime. I ended up going into I got done with Duncan, went into the medical field and the kitchen work and learned from a cook, an actual chef. Okay. And that experience led me into being the fourth in command of a kitchen. Okay. Fourth in command of a kitchen. And that turned around and I ended up back at Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. But here's the kicker, I'm now the baker, I'm the chef at Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. At least at my store, because I'm the one that does all the baking. I'm the one that makes all the drinks. And when my manager needs something new put into play, he comes to me. Another store ended up, for an example, doing this. I don't know how they did it, but they made the Grinch on a freaking donut. Okay, I kid you not. They made the Grinch on a freaking donut. I don't know how the hell they did that, but it came out perfect. It looked awesome. But I was reminded when my manager came to me and he says, "Hey, I need you to spruce this stuff up. I don't know what you do. Just do what you do." Because he knows I'm a dietary aide. I was trained as a dietary aide, an assistant cook. Okay. So I went in and I looked at what we had for donuts. I looked at what we had for product and I called forth the spirits. Guide me into doing this. Well, guess what? I whipped up a new set of batter. I ended up putting a set of donuts together, a couple of trays of donuts that people ate up like crazy. Because I was once told it's not about the amount of product that you put on it, it's about how you do it. More is not always better. Sometimes less is better. So by being led by the spirits, say, let's go with Bifron, Murmur, or Seer, great for necromantic rites and rituals. Okay? You can call forth former chefs, former cooks, former bakers. Say, hey, how can I do this? What can I do to spruce these up? And you just do it. All of a sudden, you get that muse that comes over you, comes over your left shoulder, your right shoulder, and starts whispering in your ear and chanting you. And you go forth and you create this banquet. People eat it up because it's about appeasing the eye, not this overabundance. And that day we ran out of donuts within an hour and a half. An hour and a half. Okay. So you can employ spirits. You just have to look at your goals and your aims and apply them accordingly. And trust me when I tell you, it works. Okay. I hope that answered your question, Connor. But for now, I've taken up enough of your time. It's been over an hour and 4 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. So, anyways, I hope this has been a learning experience for you. I hope that you take some of the suggestions that I've put forth here and take a good long gander at yourself and what you truly desire. Who you were in the past, who you are today, and what you want to be in the future. How do you take those steps in setting those goals and achieve them? Because you are the only one who can actually apply this stuff to your life. The only one is you. But you have to be dedicated. You have to be committed to that path, to self apotheosis, to knowledge, to education. It may separate you from the herd through because you're becoming smarter, you're becoming better, more successful as time goes on. Stop thinking about what the world wants. Start looking at what you want. Trust me, you will be better off for it. All right? Have a good one, and until next time, I'm out.